Nigeria, a vibrant tapestry of places, people, stories, struggles, and unshakable spirits. Politicians make promises, but who really holds them accountable? I'm Tony Kubara, and this isn't just about politics. This is about us. This is where we confront the hard truths that few say publicly. Okay, so welcome to Nigeria Unfiltered. Last Thursday, June the 12th, Democracy Day, President Tinubu did some good things. For example, he gave national awards to some worthy individuals, including Uncle Sam Amuka, the owner of Vanguard, a newspaper I have written for since I was a young girl. And for a change, I want to thank the president for honoring a man who is much loved and much respected across my profession, who also happens to turn 90 last week. But the president kind of spoiled his good hand by doing a couple of bad things. Well, one bad thing he did was not reinstating democratic governance in Rivers, my home state, which he has put under a state of emergency since March for no good reason. I mean, somebody who claims to be a Democrat should, on Democracy Day, be able to roll back on any mistakes he has made within the democratic sphere. But more importantly, to me personally, is the fact that the president pardoned Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 of his supporters. Ken being the Ogoni environmental activist and writer who was hanged for incitement to murder. And you know, this conflict has raged in my native Ogoni land for over 30 years. We have the Ogoni Nine, which is Ken and his supporters who were executed for the murders of the Ogoni Four, which is Chiefs Edward Kobani, Albert Badey, and Tom and Theophilus Orade. Now, the president should not have taken sides because this is a deep-seated, traumatic, controversial issue. I'm not sure it will ever be resolved. And sometimes, when you cannot get people to agree, it's best to let sleeping dogs lie and not do anything. I mean, I will talk about this issue at greater length in future. But for now, I'm just so upset about the whole thing. I'm going to sit back and let Albert Badey's son, Suage, my brother from my village, tell you why we're not happy with Mr. President about this pardon for Ken and his cronies. By the way, I'm sorry Ken was hanged. I really am. And I generally do not believe in capital punishment anyway. So I guess I should say that I'm also sorry his 8 sidekicks were hanged. But there is capital punishment in this country. And if you kill people, that is the penalty. And I believe that they were not hanged unfairly. Excluding Ken. Let me exclude Ken because Ken did not actually kill anybody. Right? He just, in my view, encouraged others to do the dirty job. Okay, so let me just step back and let the son of one of the 4 Ogoni 4 victims speak for our faction in Ogoni land.
What's your reaction to President Tinubu's decision to pardon and confer national honors on the Ogoni Nine, including Ken Saro-Wiwa, who were hanged for their part in the murder of your father and 3 other Ogoni chiefs, known collectively as the Ogoni Four?
First of all, thank you, Charles. Good evening, and thank you for having me here. I'm quite disappointed with the presidency. and the position of the federal government. Because, in fact, as at yesterday, I started mourning my father again. And the same goes for the rest of the families of the four. This was the second time my father is being murdered. And it's a very painful thing. We've lived with this for 31 years. I don't see why the federal government will be silent on the names of the four, even if they have an intention to give them an award, a national honor, so to speak, because they awarded honors to Saro-Wiwa, Nedumite, the rest of the other 8, and they never made any mention of the four. That is a complete disregard to the memories of our fathers who actually served this country diligently, you know, without blemish over the years, and they were killed, murdered in cold blood in broad daylight by the same men that are being honored today, yesterday, and they made no mention of the four. It is a very sad development. I think
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't mean to interrupt you there, Suage, but let's just be very clear. I can understand the pain that you feel, but a lot of people have argued that Ken Saro-Wiwa, for example, was not directly involved in the killing of your father and the other 3 Ogoni leaders, that he was accused of inciting people. So that's not quite the same thing as saying that people like him were directly involved in the killings. But go on.
It is actually a vicarious responsibility on the part of those who were at the leadership level of MOSOP at that time. So if they were leading MOSOP and people were defamed, and at the end of the day, they came together, conspired, and actually hacked them down, butchered them to death, and today we have not seen their bodies up till today. How else will you know, if somebody assigns somebody to go and kill, and you're not there, you have also killed that person. So he is a mastermind. I've said that before. He was a mastermind of the murders, for the murders of the four. However, for me, I don't have anything wrong with the pardon. What I feel that is wrong here, which is an aberration, is how do you, I don't get it. How do you honor a murderer that you have just pardoned, you know, and then you say nothing about our 4 fathers that were butchered to death in cold blood?
Yeah,
they didn't disappear.
I can see how that can be.
So
I can see how that can be a pretty painful thing. I mean, the fact that there was no mention, in fact, a lot of people have talked about that, the fact that there was no mention at all of the Ogoni 4 in that speech. But let me ask you this, just in the interest of time.
And so
we can move forward. I mean, are you consoled somewhat, or perhaps encouraged by the fact that Mr. Saro-Wiwa and the other Ogoni 9 were pardoned and not exonerated?
Well, pardon is okay, like I said. It's the president's prerogative to grant pardon. But to now honor murderers, I think we are now introducing a new, law in our Nigerian society, because many people, there are a lot of Ogonis who escaped, went under the cover of the United Nations Refugee Program. Somebody like Goodluck Debo, who is in Canada, a lot of them escaped. So are you going to tell me that if he returns, you're going to also accord him an OON or a CON? We have respectable Nigerians like Wole Soyinka and a lot of people who deserve such honors. And there are a lot of respected Nigerians, I must say so. But I can now see why Chinua Achebe turned down such an offer, because it looks like values are not being considered anymore. Now, a murderer, you can now be a career murderer and be given an honor in Nigeria. That's what it means. That's what it means. That's the new law.
Right.
And so I am not happy about this, because my father was a man who was straightforward, He served diligently, and at the end of the day, contributed to development, not just within the spheres of service as he served, but within Ogoni. He made a lot of contributions, and all he got was from the people through Saro-Wiwa's rhetoric, evil rhetoric, was for people to hack him down, butcher him, cut him into pieces, and take his body away. Until today, there is no remorse. Well, we can't cry on for more than 30 years. If certain people in Ogoni don't want to be remorseful for what they did, and they want to stand by the lies and continue to promote themselves because they want to enrich themselves, because they have protruding stomachs that cannot be filled, continue an activism that is not real to the people. These are pseudo-environmentalists. That's what I can call them. But however, I want to say that for the Badey family, and I think it also goes for the Kobanis and for the Orages, we have reached a point where we can say we leave everything to God. I think all this is all about how to come to Ogoni to get oil, and they are in a hurry about it. I am not prepared to betray my father for any form of compensation, for any form of, in fact, honoring him and putting him side by side with murderers. I don't think I would like to accept such an honor for my father.
Right, let me just come in there.
I don't need a compensation.
Right, Mr. Badey. In that regard, I wonder what you say to those who support Ken Saro-Wiwa, who insist that a pardon is not enough and are demanding a full exoneration for the Ogoni Nine, whom they are calling martyrs. I mean, they say a pardon reeks of injustice because the president himself acknowledged that their execution was unjust and should never have happened. I mean, what's your reaction to that?
It's very simple. All these people who are talking every day about exoneration, there is a sea of misinformed people. They are very young people who do not even know what happened. You know, disinformation leads to misinformation. And so they are so misinformed and they don't even know what they are talking about. I think it's only when you know and you feel it, that's when you know what is right to do. Just imagine that a man left his house and then he was hacked down. I was there. I saw blood splatter all around the wall in the palace. Today, they refer to that place in Gokana as slaughter. People leave their homes and say, I'm going to slaughter. And then people like Ledu Mite, Professor Ben Nanen, and all those who were at the leadership of Mosop, who have a responsibility to turn around our people for good. They have created a transgenerational catastrophe in Ogoni land. And this is going to pass through generations. Ogoni will remain divided. I'm so sad. Well, I've worked with President Tinubu
Well,
before,
that's the point, isn't it?
And I used to see him as one, as one who listens to both sides and does the right thing. But unfortunately, I think he's misguided this time. And
well, let's start looking towards solutions. Do you, Mr. Badey, subscribe to the demands of Ogoni groups like Mosop, for example, who are calling for the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate and formally repudiate what they see as the irregularities of that 1995 tribunal that found the Ogoni Nine guilty, but also the circumstances that led to the killings of the Ogoni Four? Do you think it would be a good way to complete the process of restoring justice to Ogoni land?
So far as I'm concerned, the tribunal that sat, it was a military tribunal, and that was the law of the land then. And it was the same tribunal that tried Zamani Lekwot. And Lekwot, after the whole trial, it was seen to be free and fair. It was a fair trial, although Zamani Lekwot suffered a lot. But at the end of the day, was he condemned to death? No. He wasn't condemned to death. Now, in the trial of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the others, Ledu Mite was acquitted. Assuming it was an unfair trial, as people put it, Ledum would have been also sentenced to death. So I don't think that it is necessary to go back. But if they feel that that's what they want, there's no problem. Let the president do that. If he wishes to exonerate them, well, the power lies in their hands. We were depending on the government to do the right thing because we are not unlawful people. So if right now they think they want to turn everything around and grant them an exoneration, so be it. So be it. I just feel sorry for my poor father who fell to this, terrible cannibals. People who have no heart, a very dark heart.
Right, Mr. Badey, the problem here is that I can totally sympathize with your position, and the way that you feel, because obviously it was your father. But the problem here is that people have been killed. I mean, your father and 3 other Ogoni leaders were lynched, but then Ken Saro-Wiwa and 9 others were executed. And in both cases, they've paid the ultimate price. And that is the problem here, that there is no way of bringing them back, whether it is your father and the other
certainly.
3 or the Ogoni Nine.
Yes.
In those circumstances,
this is what bothers me. Let me just make this point. Let me just make this point.
Okay. In those circumstances, what would be for you the best way to correct the tragedy that has befallen Ogoni land on all sides? What do you think can be done to make sure that all sides, from those supporting the Ogoni 4 to those who stand with the Ogoni 9, come away feeling that the stain of injustice has been erased?
Yes. First of all, you cannot wipe away the truth. You don't throw away the truth. The truth is what will bring us back together. Our fathers were murdered on the 21st day of May 1994. Now, those who murdered them want to put it at the doorsteps of the government that the military killed them, when we actually killed them, because what they want at the end of the day is to still make money from this. You grant them an exoneration, they take you to the international courts and demand for compensation. So it's all about money. They are also negotiating. They are all elbowing themselves into the percentage that they will have when the oil exploratory activity resumes. So for me, it's just all about the truth. People should be remorseful for what they have done. And then that will now also help us to be able to heal and forgive. But unfortunately, that is not the case now. Ledu Mite in particular, who was an actor, he was a vice president under Ken Saro-Wiwa, for goodness sake. I think we shouldn't even be talking about Ken Saro-Wiwa. He's late. We should be talking about those who were part of the system and when this atrocity was committed. So you have perpetrators and murderers being honored, and then the federal government looks the other way and trashes people like my father, who rose to the peak of his career as a secretary to government in the state and was butchered to death, and his body, till now, we cannot see. Face the truth. The truth is what will reconcile us. But if this is not done, that is why I said it's going to be a transgenerational trauma for the Ogoni people, and they will never be united.
Okay, so that was Charles Anyogolu, the distinguished Arise television star, talking to Suage, the son of one of the 4 men who was butchered. Ken Saro-Wiwa's camp blamed the army for his death. We think otherwise, and we are devastated. Devastated that the president decided to honor people who did this to our fathers and uncles. I'm going to talk about this issue again. But for now, let me just say, may the Ogoni 4 rest in peace, despite President Tinubu's decision to make them turn in their graves with this terrible, terrible move of honoring their killers.